Good morning. This is immigration attorney Meg Moss. I have a message for my clients. Recently, I'm getting a lot of inquiries about what would happen if someone who's in removal proceedings married a US citizen or green card holder and just proceeded with getting some sort of status through marriage. Well, this is a very complicated question. And if you're thinking that all your problems will be solved by marrying a citizen or a green card holder, I'm here to tell you that you definitely need to talk to a lawyer. Okay. Every situation is different. So, what happened for your friend may not be true for you. And in a case like this, it's extremely important that you know all the ins and outs of this situation and speak to a qualified attorney about how it could potentially work for you or not. So, let me cover a few things to consider. First, if you're in removal proceedings, you need to understand that you will be held to a higher standard in proving that the relationship is for love and that you're in it for the long haul and it's not just a way to get out of removal proceedings. So, what this means is that when you file your Form I-130, you need to request a bona fide marriage determination from USCIS. There's a procedure for this, it requires some extra paperwork. And it's very important that you understand this because your I-130 needs to have this bona fide marriage determination in order to proceed with really anything going forward or getting your case closed in court. So that's the first thing. The second thing you need to understand is that the way you enter the United States matters. If you had parole, if you had a visa, if you just came across the border, all these things matter on whether or not you're eligible even to get a green card in the United States. So that's something that an attorney needs to help you analyze. Now, this means looking at all your paperwork. So if you go have a consultation, make sure you have all that handy. That way, the attorney will be able to know exactly what applies to your situation. Now, what this means is that some people are able to do something called adjustment of status or get your green card issued in the United States. This could be done through court in some cases, or it could be done through USCIS in some cases. Now, alternatively, if you didn't enter the country with a visa and you don't fall into one of the very few exceptions to this rule, then you're going to need to leave the country to consular process, get your green card, and come back if all the stars align and everything works out. Now, this is complicated because you might need a waiver to leave and come back, or you might have a problem in that maybe you applied for asylum and it's not really possible for you to go back to your home country to have your green card issued and come back. Now, in that case, you might need to look for a third party country to go to, and that also has its own set of complications and procedures that need to be followed. So that's really important. Now, what you need also when you're pursuing this is a lot of documents. So there's two sort of sets of things that you're going to need to pursue a marriage-based green card. One is all your civil documents. So that's your birth certificate, passport, visas, entry information, and then your spouse's proof of being a citizen. And if either one of you were married before, you're going to have to prove that those marriages ended. So one thing that surprisingly comes up quite a bit is people not understanding that if you were married in a foreign country previously, that means you're basically married everywhere. As long as the marriage was valid in the country where you were married, just because you came to the United States doesn't mean that marriage ended. And there's not really a thing about registering the marriage in the United States or something like that. If you're married somewhere else, you're married here. And that means that that marriage has to end before you can start a new marriage here. And that's something you'll need to provide documentation of. Next, you want to also make sure that you have the correct relationship information. Now, some people, maybe they're dating somebody and the person wants to help them out and they propose getting married and seeing if that would help solve your immigration problems. And you truly love each other, you're in a relationship. But what people don't realize is that it's not enough just to maybe have the same address on your driver's licenses or file taxes together. You're going to have to show a lot of evidence that you're actively building a life together. So I usually tell my clients that you need to have evidence of living together first, and that's things like shared utility bills or lease agreements, mortgage statements. Maybe you've got driver's licenses that both have the same address on it. That's very important. Maybe you've got a Costco membership or an Amazon membership or a gym membership, and you have documentation to show that you're both doing that. Next, you absolutely must have financial records to show that you're financially intertwined. So that could be things like jointly filed taxes, bank statements. And let's talk about bank statements for a minute. It's not enough to just have a joint account that you both put 50 bucks in and then you just never touch it. What they're looking for is the statements for the duration of your relationship, showing that you both have access to each other's money and that you trust each other with each other's money, and also that the transactions make sense. So, for example, if you have a joint account and you both put both your paychecks in it, for example, and you pay your household bills from that and you both draw on that for various things, where the transaction locations are needs to make sense. So if you're both living in, say, Maryland, then the majority of the statement transaction should be in Maryland. And if it turns out that one of the parties is using that account from, say, Texas and one's in Maryland, but you're representing that you're both living in Maryland, that's going to be a very big problem. So you need to make sure all that stuff is lining up and the truth. Now, also things like I call it the X factor. It's like spending holidays together, going on vacation. Your families know about each other. Your social media is in alignment with your relationship. This is really important. We see a lot of people that have a problem with this, where maybe it looks like on their social media they're still looking for a relationship, or it's not clear that they're actually married, or maybe it's a status that's just really old and hasn't been updated. That can be fatal to a case. So it's very important that you check all your social media and make sure it's really clear that you're in a relationship. Okay, you're married. Most people, when they get married, they're excited about it. They post pictures from the wedding, and their friends know, and they're congratulating them on social media and that kind of thing. So that should be what's going on. Next, make sure you take lots of pictures of your relationship. You're going to need to document that you're in it for the long haul and that you're taking it seriously, and it's a marriage for love. So that's things like maybe you adopt a dog together, or your pictures represent that you had your family over, or your wedding was taken seriously. You had a party afterwards, or you actually dressed up. When I see people that go to their wedding and they're just wearing jeans and a t-shirt and they didn't really celebrate in any meaningful way, that's really suspicious. Okay, now that's maybe the case for some people, but it doesn't look good when you're applying for an immigration benefit. So those kinds of things are really important. Now, when it comes to doing this process to get out of your immigration proceedings, it's not necessarily a guarantee that you wouldn't be deported just because you marry a citizen. Now, lately, what we're seeing is filing an I-130 and starting the process is not necessarily enough for a judge to say, okay, that's fine, I'll let you stay here while this plays out. It might be possible, especially if you're eligible to adjust status and file for everything at the same time. Those cases move pretty quickly. But if not, and you're going to be required to consular process or apply for a waiver of some kind, those kind of cases take years. And I mean 3, 4, 5 years or more. I mean, they can really take a long time. And now judges are not as inclined to let people stay in the United States if they're in removal proceedings. So again, make sure you talk to an attorney before you proceed with this process. And finally, be aware that this is not an inexpensive process. People that have been in removal proceedings and maybe applying for asylum, those cases generally are not subject to expensive fees for applications. What your attorney might charge you is something else, but for application fees, for humanitarian types of cases, there's usually not a lot of fees involved. However, if you're going to go down a marriage-based green card path, there are quite a few fees involved. So application fees alone for adjustment of status are going to be over $3,000, maybe even $4,000 with your medical exam included. So that's something you need to plan for. And that's not including the help of an attorney to help you through this process. So those fees vary, and you should definitely talk to the attorneys that you're consulting about what their fees are. But when it comes to just the application fees, those are going to cost you north of $3,000 just for application fees. And finally, again, I can't stress enough that it really needs to be a relationship for love. As someone who's been through this process myself, I can tell you that it is very stressful on a marriage when you're going through the process of applying for a green card based on marriage. Even in the best case scenario of a solid marriage, it is very, very difficult and stressful. So make sure that it's a situation where you'd be getting married anyway to the person that you've selected. It's something that really just shines through when you're being interviewed, they can tell. There's like a radar that goes off, and they can tell if it's a legit relationship or not. And not only that, they're going to be doing quite a bit of investigating of the relationship. So it is not uncommon for them to come to your house, do a home visit, make sure you're actually in the same home, to talk to your neighbors, your family, your friends. They're going to take very seriously the affidavits that you provide from people attesting to your relationship. They may call them, or visit them even, especially family members. So if your parents don't know you're married, they might find out when they get a phone call. So those are the kinds of things that can cause a lot of strain on a relationship. So, and again, it's not a quick or easy process. This is something that's going to go on for a long time. So my advice to my clients is, don't get married for a green card. Get married because you love somebody and you want to spend the rest of your life with them. That's really the bottom line. And I hope that this information has been helpful. And if this is something that you're thinking about and want to talk more, please give me a call. Or if you're my client and we've had this discussion, feel free to call me or text me anytime if you'd like to continue the conversation. Thanks so much and have a great day.